What if the most jaw-dropping thing Prince William revealed about Meghan Markle wasn't anything he actually said, but everything he deliberately left unsaid? What if during nearly 3 hours of relaxed national radio, while chatting openly about family memories, parenting, football, and life inside the royal household, the future king delivered his strongest message, yet through pure, unmistakable silence? Because that is the mystery now sending royal watchers into absolute meltdown. Not because of a dramatic showdown, not because of a leaked document, not because of some explosive headline, but because millions of listeners heard Prince William speak freely for hours, while one entire branch of the family seemed to vanish from existence altogether.
And she had the cream on first.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll chat to Rianne, your mum. And it's been lovely seeing her again and having a chat. So thank you so much. I didn't watch hiding stuff from them doesn't work.
Last Friday looked harmless enough at first glance. Prince William walked into a cafe on the Isles of Scilly, sat down for what was supposed to be a cheerful appearance on Heart Breakfast, and instantly won over listeners across Britain. He laughed, he joked, he seemed relaxed, he seemed genuinely human. There was no palace podium, no carefully choreographed royal event, no formal address, just a future king chatting naturally with millions of people. And that is exactly why everyone is paying attention now. Because when politicians avoid topics, people notice. When celebrities sidestep questions, people notice. But when a future monarch spends hours casually discussing family and never once mentions his brother, his sister-in-law, his nephew, or his niece, people begin wondering whether the silence itself was the real statement. Prince William spoke warmly about Catherine, not with stiff palace wording, but with sincere admiration. He described her as an amazing wife and an amazing mother. Those remarks hit differently because they sounded spontaneous. They sounded genuine. Then came the stories.
And so explaining how they feel, why that's happening, they flourish, and the impact they can have is truly phenomenal.
What about storytelling? One thing I, as a journalist, see is...
He didn't even hit the ball that was going in the net. He was already up celebrating. How do you know? He's like, I watched them training. He's practiced that free kick several times. Then he just knew.
Love a bit of Ray, where's my husband? And my wife constantly is asking, where is my husband?
Is that one of Catherine's choice?
And I think we've challenged them at every turn to be bolder, be better, be ambitious, reach for the stars.
William, His Royal Highness, appearing on the Heart Breakfast radio show, and he gave some rare insights into his family life.
And we're a very open family, so we talk about things that bother us and things that trouble us. But you never quite...
Charlotte was mentioned with plenty of affection, including her obsession with Taylor Swift. Prince Louis popped up in stories involving jam-covered fingerprints all over the family car. It was the sort of everyday family chaos that made Prince William's household feel surprisingly relatable. Then another important figure entered the conversation, his grandmother. The late Queen was remembered warmly and naturally. Prince William even invoked her authority during the famous cream versus jam debate. The reference felt effortless, familiar, like a loving grandson remembering someone who still carries enormous emotional importance in his life. And yet, that warmth only deepened the mystery. Because while Catherine was mentioned, George was mentioned, Charlotte was mentioned, Prince Louis was mentioned, and Queen Elizabeth was mentioned, for other people directly connected to Prince William's story appeared completely missing from the conversation. Not one accidental reference, not one passing mention, not one joke, absolutely nothing. And suddenly royal commentators started wondering whether this was really an accident after all. Just think about the setting.
George, little details slipped out naturally during conversation. Royal correspondents immediately...
This was casual breakfast radio, after all. The entire format thrives on spontaneous conversation. Family stories surface naturally. Personal memories surface naturally. Names usually pop up naturally. People drift into discussions without any planning whatsoever. And that is exactly why the complete absence of certain names felt so strange. Some royal observers believe keeping those names out of the conversation required something incredibly deliberate. Every family anecdote, every discussion about royal life, every mention of relationships, every opportunity where someone else could have entered the narrative. Yet somehow, almost suspiciously, the conversation always steered somewhere else.
This was not a formal state occasion governed by strict protocol. This was
And that is where things suddenly become incredibly intriguing. 3 royal biographers have reportedly spent months documenting what they describe as a pattern rather than a single moment. According to their interpretation, This radio appearance was hardly an isolated incident. Instead, it represented another piece of a much larger puzzle. A puzzle, they argue, built on absences, not invitations that arrive but invitations that never do, not names that are spoken but names carefully omitted, not public declarations but public silence. According to this theory, the royal institution rarely delivers major internal verdicts directly. Instead, messages emerge through subtle signals, through what remains unsaid, through who appears and who mysteriously does not. And if that theory holds true, then Prince William's radio appearance suddenly takes on a very different meaning. Because the silence did not begin last week. Some commentators trace it back years, long before documentaries, long before memoirs, long before explosive public interviews dominated headlines worldwide. According to investigative royal author Tom Bower, a major turning point may have occurred around the time of Queen Elizabeth II's funeral. His reporting suggests that decisions regarding
Highness appearing on the Heart Breakfast radio show, and he gave some rare insights into his
because if certain biographers are right, then what listeners witnessed on Heart Breakfast was not some temporary emotional response. It was the latest visible sign of a position that has allegedly been hardening behind palace walls for years. And once you start viewing events through that perspective, some rather curious patterns begin showing up everywhere. The reception before the late Queen's funeral, the coronation, the guest lists, the carefully choreographed appearances, the public statements, and now a 3-hour radio broadcast where 4 names never appeared even once. One omission can be brushed aside, 2 omissions can be called coincidence. But when omissions start forming a pattern over years, people inevitably begin wondering whether they are witnessing something far bigger. Because what if the future king has already made up his mind? What if the real story has never been about reconciliation at all? What if while much of the public continues debating whether bridges can still be rebuilt, the man standing closest to the future crown quietly reached his conclusion long ago? And if that is true, then the silence heard across millions of radios last Friday may not have been silence at all. It may have been a message hiding in plain sight.
That is what makes the next revelation so explosive, because if certain
It may have been the loudest statement Prince William has made in years. And that is where this story stops looking like an ordinary family feud and starts resembling a battle over the future direction of the monarchy itself. Because according to royal commentators, biographers, and historians now weighing in, the question is no longer whether tensions exist. The real question is whether those tensions have already evolved into a long-term strategy quietly unfolding behind palace walls. The reason so many royal watchers are obsessed with Prince William's radio appearance is because they believe it revealed something far more significant than a routine family update. They believe it exposed priorities. Every name mentioned seemed to reinforce the image of the future king's immediate household. Catherine, George, Charlotte, Prince Louis, the late Queen. A picture of continuity, a picture of stability, a picture of a future monarchy centered around the Wales family. And the clearer that picture became, the more obvious the missing pieces looked. What makes the situation even more fascinating is the growing number of reports suggesting that Prince William and King Charles III may not see the future through exactly the same lens.
On the other hand, on the way, there were many victims. And I think that the victims are obviously the people I look for.
All of this points toward 2 very different approaches. On one side stands a father reportedly determined to keep communication channels open whenever possible. On the other stands a future king whom multiple observers describe as someone who rarely forgets major disputes and prefers firm boundaries once decisions have been made. That difference matters enormously because the monarchy is entering a period of transition unlike anything it has experienced in decades. Every decision being made today could influence the institution for generations. Every relationship carries consequences. Every public signal is examined under a microscope. Every appearance, every absence, every invitation, every omission becomes another piece of evidence in the bigger debate over where the monarchy is heading. And then there is the issue of titles, a topic that keeps generating headlines whenever discussions about Prince William's future reign surface. Several commentators and authors have argued that a future monarch possesses considerable authority over royal structures and honors. Whether those predictions ever become reality remains uncertain, but what has captured public attention is how often the same possibility keeps emerging from different sources, different writers, different publications, and separate reporting trails, all somehow pointing towards similar conclusions about the direction Prince William may want the institution to take. And that is exactly why the radio silence has become so symbolic. For some observers, it was simply a man avoiding family drama during a public appearance. For others, it represented something far more significant, a visible glimpse of a decision already made, a message hidden inside ordinary conversation. A future king speaking not through words, but through calculated omission. And perhaps that is what makes the entire saga so fascinating. Prince William never attacked anyone.